So I'm sure these folks over here are itching for a chance to ask you for your help, ask you for your support, and I'm just getting excited to hear their messages. So without any further ado, let's get this thing going. Our first speaker is a candidate for Senate, Admiral Mike Franken.
All right, sir.
So no speech, huh? My gift to you all today is I wrote an 11-minute speech to take up my whole time and a little bit of Glenn Hurst's too, but I won't. We'll set that down. Hi, everyone. My name's Michael Franken. I am from Sioux County, youngest of 9 kids. My dad was a blacksmith. My mom was a school teacher. I am the guy known as the retired Admiral. I born in a situation where we had one bathroom in a nice house, kind of in a rural Iowa. Ultimately worked my way to college, working for a slaughterhouse in my dad's machine shop. My dad, a World War II vet, came back a little bit damaged, but he still chose to work with steel in a machine shop. My mom was the intellectual. It was a good life. I had 6 sisters, so it was a tough life for the young boy in the house, but good life. I got a scholarship in college and joined the Navy. I didn't know I was going to stay in for so long, but ultimately 39 years later, when Donald Trump was elected, I decided that that was enough. Person of principle, I wasn't going to elect. Having worked for every president since Jimmy Carter, he wasn't the type of guy I wanted to work for. I stand before you today with a desire to be your senator. My sense is there's 2 overarching reasons to do this. First of all, there's an assault on the democracy of this nation. Having spent a long time in defense of this country overseas, strangely enough, I see a need to do the same internal to us. If you wonder if that's really true, look at a situation in the House of Representatives where elected officials disavow the results of the voter. That's an atrocity. That is what President Trump wanted to see in places like Venezuela and Russia, China. It's not America. That's not for me. Secondly, I have a lot of experience doing things, from commanding a ship to commanding a variety of ships, an armada of ships, all the land forces in a combat theater, being President Obama's chief of legislative affairs during a time of severe budget strains, getting things done, getting more done than is asked of us, because I know how to get things done in Washington. Multiple tours in the policy, strategy jobs, legislative affairs have served me well to get things done in Washington. That's what I'll do for you. We will build this state. The second reason is to build the quality of life for Iowans. That is my first and foremost job. We can do this, from expanded use of ethanol to increasing the river traffic for commodities and tourism, to more sustainable agriculture, better improved education, and a healthcare system that treats everybody equally, everywhere. So my name is Michael Franken. I am ever so happy to take this mantle and take it to Washington. If I had, wish I was standing on a 1956 GMC pickup truck. I could say it's not safe at any speed. It's certainly no longer used for its owner because all of its farmers have long since gone broke. And I certainly wouldn't take it to Washington. It's time to send Chuck Grassley home. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good job. All right. Thank you, Admiral Franken. Our next speaker is Dr. Glenn Hurst, candidate for U.S. Senate. Oh, want to tape that up to the... Oh, you need your binder.
There we go. Thank you. Woo. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for being out here. Can you hear me okay? Great. Great. I'm Dr. Glenn Hurst. I'm a family practice physician from over in Potawatomi County, where, yes, indeed, we have 0 of 8 seats represented but with a Democrat. So it is a joy to be here in Story County, where so many Democratic elected officials are sitting out here in the cars. It's really a foreign feeling for me. Potawatomi County is where my practice is, in the small rural town of Minden, a town of 600 people. I've been chair of the Iowa Democratic Party's Rural Caucus for the last several years and was vice chair prior to that. I've been chair of Cindy Axney's district, the 3rd district, helping get her reelected to her position. Right. So I know rural Iowa, and I know how to win. And I am telling you, I am here today because we, the people, want Iowa to thrive, right? And it's not thriving, folks. It's not. My drive here today demonstrated that point to me perfectly. Rural town after rural town with businesses that are closed on Main Street, boarded up windows, the lack of industry, the lack of new housing, the lack of growth in our communities. I drove through parts of the state over our beautiful waterways that had signs over them saying, unsafe water, unsafe to swim, unsafe for pets. That is a problem for Iowa. I've had experiences as a healthcare provider seeing problems that have broke my heart. As I drove across Iowa today, I went through one town other than Des Moines that still delivers babies in their local hospital. Folks, if you can't have a baby in your community can't grow. 7th grade health class taught me that at the very least. We absolutely have problems that are causing our whole state to shrink, shrivel. 25% population lost in rural Iowa in the last 40 years. 68 of our 99 counties losing population in just the last decade. I think of the people that I've seen die needlessly as a physician. I had a patient come to my clinic one day. He hadn't been in the clinic since his 7th grade physical. He didn't have insurance. He didn't have the money to cover the cost of a visit, and he just kind of passed on the options when they were there. And here he was, 60 years old, needing an appointment with me because he had a pain in his stomach and he thought he had a hernia and he knew he had to do something about it. So we said, sure, come in. We'll take a look at you. We'll see. We don't have a collection agency. You'll pay us when you can pay us. So the guy walks in and he's yellow and his face is gaunt and his abdomen is protruded. And I press on his abdomen and I don't feel a hernia. I feel marbles kind of underneath his rib cage here on the right side. And I know what this guy has. This guy has cancer. And we did a little workup, and sure enough, he had metastatic colon cancer that had gone to his liver. The pain that he felt was his liver capsule breaking open in his body. And this man's first encounter with health care after his 7th grade physical was being placed on hospice and dying within 6 months. Iowa is failing to thrive. And if we're going to talk about that failure to thrive, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, right? Yeah. Pun intended. Yeah. Chuck Grassley, right? 40 years of Chuck Grassley. 40 years of dying Iowa. 40 years of Chuck Grassley's hands in the Farm Bill. 40 years of Iowa failing to thrive. So we've got to reverse that, right? Chuck Grassley's weak. 67% of Iowans think he should retire, right? That's a great number, right? But yeah, that's a great number. But we got to talk about the other elephant in the room. Okay, and it's the candidates that we as Democrats have been putting forward against vulnerable Republicans. Kim Reynolds was a vulnerable Republican. Joni Ernst was a vulnerable Republican, and we were not able to cross the line. Why weren't we able to cross the line? It's because we didn't put forth the kind of candidates that Iowans want to vote for, right? We know what kind of candidates they don't want to vote for, right? We don't want to vote for candidates that are picked by Washington, D.C. for us, right? We don't want to vote for candidates that are Washington insiders that have no connection with Iowa, no history with us. We don't want to vote for candidates that buy their way onto the ticket. We don't want to vote for candidates that can't stand up and say, these are Iowa Democratic principles upon which I stand and which I will run. And we have evidence that Democrats will show up for that person, right? Look at the caucuses. Look at the caucuses. Bernie Sanders wins the 4th, 2nd, and 1st district. That tells us in a system that he would claim himself is set up for him not to succeed in, where he wins, it tells us a candidate like that who runs on solidly Democratic principles can win in Iowa, and we can win in Iowa. I tell you, I am that kind of candidate. You will hear from my mouth the facts about how we can fix this country. You will hear from my mouth that we will invest in Iowa in a way that makes Democrats and Republicans excited about us. When we talk about climate, I will support climate action to address the climate crisis, which is climate reality, and that better hit home, that is the reality of our country. When we talk about conservation as a tool for addressing that, hey, all Iowans can hear that, right? I went to a fish fry. I couldn't eat the fish from the fry pan because I was afraid about the body of water that it came out of here in Iowa. When you can eat the fish at the fish fry, then Iowa wins. When you can send your kids outside to play and they aren't driven back in by the stench from the CAFOs, then Iowa wins. When Ross Smith's dog can go retrieve that duck from the pond without being poisoned by red algae, Iowa wins. But we got to grow this state too, right? We've got to get people here. So send me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming soil, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And that golden door is Iowa, where there is opportunity for growth to build houses, to build roads, to fix our bridges. We must bring people to our community. And I'll wrap up with this. You will absolutely hear from me that health care is a human right and belongs to every person in this country. We will support a Medicare for All system because when Iowans can deliver babies in their counties, Iowa wins. When your kids can get their hearing and vision screened in their community, Iowa wins. When you can live out your golden years in the communities that you built, Iowa wins. And when Iowa starts to win like that, Iowa doesn't just win. Iowa thrives. And I will be the provider, and I will be the senator who will lead us forward so that every community and the entire state thrives, and more personally, so that each and every one of you thrive. I'm Dr. Glenn Hurst. I'm running for the U.S. Senate. HurstForIowa.com. I would love your support.
All right, everyone. We have one more candidate for U.S. Senate. Our next speaker is Congresswoman Abby Finkenauer, candidate for Senate. Oh, here.
All right. Well, hello, Story County Democrats. So good to see some of you. Oh, my goodness. It is great to be here. Again, I am Abby Finkenauer, and I am running for United States Senate because Iowa, our country, and democracy are worth fighting for. You see, I grew up in Iowa in a small town a little bit north of Dubuque called Sherrill. It's got more cows than people. And my dad was a union pipe fitter welder. My mom worked for the school district. And it was where in that town in Iowa that I learned about kindness and being there for each other and being there for your neighbors, whether it was a literal cup of sugar or, in my family's case, my mom calling and asking the neighbors, can you come down and watch the kids? As she needed an extra hand, as my dad worked out of town months at a time, just trying to provide a good life for our family. And you see, I know that good life was something that my parents didn't just give me, but they fought for it relentlessly every single day. And that, my friends, is what this race is all about. You see, every single person here today, across this state and across this country, knows that there is a difference between just being able to make a living or being able to have a good life. And having leaders in Washington, D.C., who understand the difference between the two and who have actually lived it can be the difference between the two for folks here in Iowa and, again, across the country. You see, it is the difference of being able maybe to take your kids on a family vacation to the campground for the weekend or wondering, do you have enough to cover childcare the next weekend? The next week. It is the difference of being able to take your grandkids maybe out to the movies, to a ball game, to ice cream, or wondering the next month, do you have enough to cover your prescription drugs? And it is the difference, and I think we've all felt this over the last year and a half, of being able to take the time to care for your loved ones if they are sick, your kids, your grandkids, your parents, or wondering, do you have your job if you take the time to do it? You see, I know there are more examples that show up for folks here, and I know that there are policies that move us forward and there are policies that hold us back, just like I know that there are public servants who move us forward and there are politicians who hold us back, specifically politicians like Senator Grassley, who've been in Washington, D.C. for decades and have lost sight of which is which. You see, when I was elected to Congress, I took the values that Iowa taught me of being there for each other, of respect for your neighbors, of never thinking you are better than anyone else, no matter what you do or where you go. And I showed up and I fought for Iowans every single day. I voted for a wage increase for Americans. I voted for lower prescription drug prices, not just for our seniors, but for every American. I passed a bill for affordable, quality, and accessible childcare because all three matter. I stood up for our farmers in the middle of a trade war that had no end or plan in sight, and I got past the best investment in rural infrastructure that our country has ever seen. But time and again, we ran into roadblocks, and those roadblocks usually began in the United States Senate because, again, we had folks sitting there like Senator Grassley who were so obsessed to holding on to power that, again, they opposed anything that moved us forward. And I knew that it was time that we had a Senate that actually showed up for working families like the one that I grew up in. But then January 6th happened. And I knew that this race was going to be about a heck of a lot more than even just policy. It was going to be about our very democracy. See, it does something to you as you're sitting on your couch in Cedar Rapids with your husband and you're watching your friends and your former colleagues get attacked in real time by a violent mob that was fed misinformation and lies for months. And I knew in that moment that the world had changed, and it changed me. And I started thinking about our representation we now had in Iowa, in that United States Senate, and specifically Senator Chuck Grassley, who should have known better, who should have stood up for our democracy and should have told the truth. And I knew then that it was time to stand up and do what my parents always taught me, which was when there's work to be done, you stand up and you do it. I knew it was time to speak the truth and speak it louder than any time since our founding. And I knew that it was time that we held Senator Grassley accountable in a way that he's never been before. For nearly 5 decades. We must make sure we hold him accountable for what he has done and what he hasn't. You see, we have lost 35,000 family farms in this state since that man held office. If you have cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and you're here today, he voted 12 times to take away your health care, and he would do it again. And time and again, he has sided with multi-billion-dollar corporations over the working men and women in this state and in this country. And I will tell you this, I have had enough. It is time that we take this man on in a way that he has never been before. And we bring a voice to that United States Senate of somebody who is willing to do the work, willing to work with anybody if it moves us forward, but willing to stand up to anybody who hurts us. That is who I am. You are who I fight for, and I will never quit until we get this done. It is too important, folks. Iowa is my home. You, again, are my friends, are my family, are my neighbors, and I will never quit until we hold this guy accountable, until we save our state, our country, and our democracy. So please, 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 join us. We need you with us. We need you with us now. Go to abbyfinkenauer.com. We will be back here in Story County, in Ames. We want to meet you. We want to meet your friends. We want to talk to people who voted the other way, and we want to make sure we can get this thing done. And again, not just for our country, but for our state as well. Thank you, everybody. Take care.